everyone, welcome back to the Serenity channel, just in case you fuck.
Try again.
That's not our name. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Serenity Project, just in case you forgot. My name's Rebecca.
And I'm Lana.
And today we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes we've made in our recovery so far. Hopefully not more to come. And so let's get right to it.
Absolutely.
And so the first one I chose is believing that I knew how to get myself well. And I think this is actually pretty comical because I'm the one who got myself sick. And if I could get myself well, I'd be well right now. But this showed up for me all the time in treatment centers or in therapy, and they'd say something like, well, I think it would be really helpful if you did positive affirmations. And I'd say, I think that sounds really dumb. I'm not going to do that. Years down the line, when I finally did it, I actually found it super helpful, and kind of laughed at the fact that I was just so unwilling to try it. But that's the insanity of this illness, right? Like, I'm not going to listen to what you're telling me to do because I don't think it's going to work, yet I stick to doing what I know 100% fails every time and think it's going to work. And that's the illness, right?
I can totally relate to that, and I think it's very common for people that are in recovery to feel this way. They keep a closed mind because that's what keeps their disease really going. And what we try to do in our recovery is keep an open mind, try things, give it time. We need to give things time. Things don't just change overnight. And
Yeah. Okay. Number two.
Yes. Number two. I really used to think that my recovery had to look identical to somebody else's, so I really believed that my life had to hit the same milestones, to have the same things as them. I had to hit the same milestones. I had to be going in a direction that they were going, and I think that really was my disease lying to me, keeping me with expectations of myself that I couldn't live up to. And over time I've realized that the recipe is the same for all of us, or it seems to be, from what I've witnessed within a 12-step program or recovery in general. The recipe is the same. If we put the same ingredients into our recovery, we will get a result, but that result will look different for every single one of us, and that's okay. That's the beauty of life. That's the beauty of being unique and individuals. And I didn't embrace that for a long time, just because I had people that I put on this pedestal almost, and it just didn't work out in a healthy way for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one thing about that I really resonate with was I used to always compare myself to other women I knew who had eating disorders, who were doing better in school or doing great in school and had a job and had a social life. And I was just like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, here I am completely debilitated by this illness. Like, why can't I be like them? And what's come to me, like, through all of this and all of the work I've done is that sometimes certain people, it's going to sound silly, but need to get so sick because from that sickness they're going to help other people get well, right? And that's part of our journey and what we're doing right now. Like, why was my recovery not the way I wanted it to be? Like, I don't know, but maybe for good reason, right?
Going back to that point is that when we rob ourselves of that authentic recovery that's true to us as individuals, we don't allow for other people to learn from our growth and what we're doing. So it could debilitate other people and make them feel the same way that we're feeling. It's kind of a vicious cycle.
Yeah, and I don't know their internal condition, right? Just because they're showing up and doing things that I'd like to be doing doesn't mean that they're not, like, suffering from a deep soul sickness on the inside, right? So I can't compare my insides to their outsides. Like, that's never going to get me anywhere.
You got it. You got it, girl.
You go, girl. Okay, so number 3 is that I stopped doing what works as soon as it's working. My best friend likes to joke with me about this all the time. As I go back to therapy, therapy's going great, I'm recovering, I go, sayonara therapy, I'm out. And that's not served me well, right? Like, when something's working, I need to keep doing it, but I suffer from this delusion that, like, if I can string together 2 days not binging and purging, I think I'm a new person, I think I'm recovered, and I think my illness is gone, right? Like, that's completely delusional. Like, an alcoholic doesn't not drink for 2 days. I mean, some do, and then think they can drink, right? But it doesn't serve them well.
Yeah, I've been there many times.
Yeah.
I love that one. I'm not sure I have too much to say on it, but I think what we're trying to do is to create healthy habits. And these are things that so-called normies do naturally, but we really need to maintain them. So to get out of that delusion that just because you feel better, we're still not living normally when we stop doing these very vital pieces, right? And I've been there so many times. It's like I'm eating well, I'm sleeping well, I'm exercising, I'm doing the healthy things, I'm talking, I'm being honest, and then I have the results, but then I don't show gratitude to the things that got me healthy, that have got me to that place. So I start to go back. Don't sleep, I don't eat properly, I don't exercise, I overwork, I do all these things, and then go, wow, why do I feel the way that I do?
Yeah, it's like when we recreate the conditions that got us sick in the first place and then expect them to be conditions of wellness. Like, in what parallel universe does that work? It's certainly not here, right?
No, that's for sure. I think another one for me was relying on all things human. So I'd rely on my sponsor, my friends, the man that I was with at the time. I would rely on work to get me through situations. And ultimately, all of these things fail me. Because once again, they're human. They have flaws. They have natural flaws that are going to come out. And they're going to let me down eventually, whether they mean to or not. We cannot have expectations of anyone, really, because they are human. Things are going to come up.
And I think it goes beyond that to talking about our conception, something we do of a higher power, right? Like if I say to myself, like, oh, I can not binge and purge, but I can only not do it when my partner's with me all the time, right? Like, first of all, that's going to fail eventually. Like, I've set up numerous situations that I thought were foolproof, and they only lasted like X amount of days or weeks, right? But going over to the higher power part, and when we say that we're coming from a 12-step perspective, like a God of our understanding, I have to turn my will in my life over to that rather than to my boyfriend or to my sponsor or to my friend, because as Lana was saying, like those people, there's going to be times when they can't show up for us. Like no one's able to be with us all the time.
Right. And it goes back to it can't be tangible. Anything that can disappear from your life doesn't work in a higher power concept. So people die, unfortunately. A tree could get cut down and then it's not there anymore, and you lose that sense of grounding. For me, my higher power is not religious. There's no religious affiliation. It doesn't have a gender. It doesn't have a book behind it. It doesn't have any kind of, but it has characteristics. My higher power is loving, kind, tolerant, patient, all of the things that I want to be as a human being and try to exude my higher power is. So I hold on to that from a spiritual foundation. So if anyone's struggling with the concept of a higher power, I hope that through these videos we'll be able to tell you how we designed our own conceptions, and that it doesn't really necessarily have to do with religion, although some people do end up having religious affiliations after, which is okay too.
Yeah, no problem with that. Like for me, my conception of a higher power, and it's something I'm like working towards building every day, but it's something I struggled with for a long time because I thought it had to be like a religious God, and I really didn't resonate with that at all. So my higher power, I remember someone saying to me, like during the birth process, like from ovum and sperm to embryo to baby, everything that needs to happen for that life happens, right? Perfectly, for the most part, until the baby is born and humans intervene and we fuck it all up, right? And so I think of that for my own life. Like when I intervene with my own self-will, I fuck everything up time and time again. It's actually really pathetic at this point, but when I stop and I pause and I try to go inward and go, okay, like, what's the next right thing? And I have that little voice in me that says, oh, like, go for a walk, right? And sometimes I don't listen to it, and then I end up stuck in my behaviors, and the times that I do, it leads me to the next right thing. Maybe on that walk I run into a friend and that person makes me really happy and I forget all about my problems, right? But the whole point for me is when I intervene in my own life and I use my own self-will, I end up nowhere good fast.
Right.
So going with the ebbs and flow of just everything, really.
Absolutely.